Hey everybody, I just wanted to do another video to kind of continue my saga, if you will, on my journey with getting the diagnosis of the antisynthetase syndrome with myositis and interstitial lung disease. Where I left off before was in October of 2014. I had gone through 2 hospital stays so far in 2014, and I basically, in October of 2014, I started to get short of breath again. That walk from the car to my desk at work was just getting worse, getting harder. I was out of breath. So I decided to call my lung doctor and just let them know that I think that this pneumonia of sorts or whatever it is back, and that I needed to probably be seen in the office. So the lung doctor said, well, I'm going to call in an antibiotic, go ahead and pick it up, and then tomorrow go to the hospital and have a chest x-ray done. And then I'll look at the x-ray, see if the pneumonia's back, and then we can treat you accordingly. Well, that next morning I got up and I got in the shower and I was just out of breath from taking a shower. Like, I literally couldn't really catch my breath. I was not feeling like I was going to pass out, but I was just feeling like, oh, I think my oxygen level's low. So I actually had bought a pulse oximeter, which is a thing that checks the oxygen level, and you stick it on your finger and it tells you what percentage your oxygen level is. Well, I checked it after my shower and it was in the upper 60s, which is extremely low, and I decided that I needed to go to the hospital and get a chest x-ray, but rather than going to get the x-ray and then going to work, I would actually just go to the hospital and go to the ER, because I knew that in the 60s that was dangerous, and I needed to be seen. So I went to the emergency room that morning, and of course they admitted me into the hospital. I was in the hospital for, I think, 2 or 3 days, and the lung doctor had come by. She basically said, at this point, Dustin, we've done the bronchoscopy, we have run all sorts of blood tests and lab tests, and we want to do a little bit more research, and we think that it's time that you have an open lung biopsy. I had one of those back in 1996 with a different lung issue, and it wasn't a pleasant experience. And so when she said that, I immediately was like, I don't want to do this, but I knew that it would probably give us the answers that we needed. So I agreed to do it, and so they did the lung biopsy. And what they do with a lung biopsy, an open lung biopsy, is they actually go into your side, through your chest, so like under your arm, between your armpit and your waist, and they make a few incisions. I have 3. And they actually spread your ribs apart and go between your ribs to your lung, and then they cut off a piece of your lung that's a decent sized piece, and then they pull it out and they go to a different part of your lung and cut off another piece. So I believe that they said they took 3 pieces of my lung, and also there are 3 incisions. I have 3 scars. I left the I left the operating room, and they took me to ICU, which is normal because you have a chest tube. Normally you would be in ICU for a day or 2 just to kind of stabilize, and then you get the chest tube out. Well, the chest tube is there for drainage, to help drain fluid. It's also there to help your lung to stay inflated, because as you can imagine, when they cut your lung, it basically deflates your lung. So there's like I guess kind of like a pump or something that helps to keep the lung inflated, yet a vacuum that helps to bring the fluid off of your lung and drain any blood or whatever infection that might be coming out. I actually ended up spending 7 days in the ICU. While I was there, my oxygen level kept getting worse and worse, and they couldn't get it to come up, and they ended up moving me from regular oxygen, which I think goes to, I don't know, 10 liters maybe, onto a special machine that they actually had to wheel into the room, and I was on 40 liters, 40, which is, I'd never heard of anybody being on 40 liters of oxygen. And it was basically like a fan hooked up to the tube that went to my nose, and it basically plugged up my nose and forced air or oxygen into my lungs that way. It was very uncomfortable. It's, as you can imagine, it's forced air constantly. They had to put like a humidifier in it, so it blew like humid air. As you can imagine, forced air through into your nostrils and all of that will dry you out very quickly. So it was very uncomfortable, to say the least. And I was on that for at least 3 or 4 days. All the while they're giving me steroids through an IV and antibiotics through an IV, and we're trying to get me to get better. And eventually I started to get better, and they moved me out of the ICU. Like I said, I was there for 7 days. One of the nights that I was actually in the ICU, they put me on a machine called a BiPAP. It was actually 2 different nights. It's forced air, much like the oxygen that I just described. However, it's basically a mask that just covers your nose and your mouth, and it forces the air in, and then it kind of brings the air back out. So it's a way that your lungs can kind of open if you don't have the capability of taking that deep of a breath, which I didn't at that time. It's hard to sleep because, as you can imagine, forced air, as soon as you open your mouth or whatever, it just starts coming out. The air starts coming out, so kind of uncomfortable. Also, while I was in the ICU, one of the lung doctors from my doctor's office came in and said, "We got some results from your lung biopsy, and what you have, we have a diagnosis other than just atypical pneumonia. The diagnosis that you have is called DIP pneumonia, which stands for disquamous interstitial pneumonia." Did a little bit of research on it, and then also the doctor basically said it's caused by cigarette smoking, which I was a smoker. I have since quit. But he basically warned me that if I continue to smoke, or even be around people that are smoking, or go to people's homes that smoke in their home, I do run the risk of having this pneumonia come back. It's essentially like an allergy to cigarette smoke. Okay, great, we have a diagnosis. So, like I said, 7 days in the ICU, went to a regular room, and I was there for, I think, about 5 days. And then they sent me home on oxygen and on a nebulizer. So I was taking breathing treatments at home every 4 hours as well. And eventually was able to wean myself off of the oxygen during the day, so I was only wearing it at night again. And then I didn't need the nebulizer treatments because they didn't really feel like they were opening me up and doing any good. And my lung doctor agreed that if I didn't feel that it was making a difference, to not continue it. It wasn't really doing anything. Plus, I was having a reaction. It would make me really, really jittery. The nebulizer, it's albuterol, and it just makes you really jittery and almost like you're on crack or something. I don't know. Not that I've ever done crack, but it just makes you feel like you just have too much energy and you want to, you know, take off running. So everything was going great for several months. That was again in late October, early November, and then I weaned off of everything except for the oxygen at night. I even weaned off of the prednisone and all of that. everything's going wonderful. I think that we're beyond this. We're done. I had quit smoking, and then all of a sudden, April of 2015 hits, and I start feeling like I'm getting sick. Like I feel like I'm getting a cold or the flu or something, and I have a little bit of a cough, but it's not major. But then again, I noticed that I'm feeling like my oxygen level's low. So I checked it on the pulse oximeter, and wouldn't you know, it's getting low again. So I called the lung doctor once again and said, I think I'm getting sick. They said, start your prednisone back, go back on the oxygen 24/7, go get a chest x-ray and come see me. So I did, went, had the chest x-ray. The pneumonia was back, the scar tissue and all of that. It was just sprinkled all over my lungs. It was repeating itself again. So the lung doctor essentially said, we think that you should go see a rheumatologist because sometimes these lung issues are a side effect of a bigger issue like an autoimmune disorder or disease. So going to see a rheumatologist would be something that would benefit you, at least to weed out that possibility. So they gave me a recommendation of a local rheumatologist, and I set up an appointment. Went to his office and explained why I was there. He was basically a little surprised that I was there because it wasn't like a rheumatology or an arthritis or something like that I was there for. I was just kind of getting a second opinion, so to speak. But he agreed to have some blood work drawn and have some tests run that maybe I hadn't had done before. So they did, and it took a long time to get those results back, but I was sitting at home one evening, and it was about 10 minutes to 9 in the evening, and the rheumatologist, the doctor himself, called me on my phone, and I was dumbfounded that the doctor even did that, but he called me to basically tell me that they found out that I have this anti-synthetase syndrome, and he would like for me to start a couple of medications. One of them is called mycophenolate, and the other one is tacrolimus. Both of them are anti-rejection medications that are given to people that have had transplants. It's so their body doesn't reject the new organ. And essentially what this anti-synthetase syndrome is doing to me, and it may be different for other people, but what it's doing to me is it's making my own body kind of reject my lungs. And so taking this new medication is something that will help my body to keep the tissue that I have and have it work as effectively as it can with my body. I've been on this medication now for about a month on the 2 new medications. In addition to those 2 new medications, I also have to take an anti-nausea medication because they are essentially like chemotherapy medicines, and so they make you sick at your stomach and even vomit. And then also I have to take an antibiotic every day because the medication suppresses your immune system, so I become more susceptible to infection. So I have to take an antibiotic as well. However, at this time, everything seems to be going really, really well, and I seem to feel like I'm reacting well to the medication. However, my doctor thinks that it's a little early to make that determination. He wants to continue on this medication the rest of my life. If it works, I'll have to be on it the rest of my life. And he wants me to continue on it and to go back for monthly blood work because that's what it requires. So that's kind of where I am at this point. I will be updating another video soon. I do thank you for watching, and I'm sorry that they have to be long videos at this point, but I'm pretty much caught up to date. Please leave a comment if you'd like. I'd love to hear from you, and if this is something that you're going through as well, touch base with me and let me know, because you know, we can swap stories and just so you know that you're not the only one out there going through it. So anyway, take care, and I hope to hear from you soon. Bye.